These photos were taken without knowing they would be the last. They were captured casually without intention or ceremony during ordinary moments that only gained meaning later. Today we're looking at the final photos of public figures who passed away this year. Images that once blended into the background, but now remain as their final recorded appearances. Azie Osborne. Azie Osborne's final known image came from a screenshot taken during his last podcast appearance, recorded just days before his death. He was seated indoors under studio lighting, speaking slowly but clearly, with no indication that this would be his final recorded moment. The episode was released routinely, without announcement or farewell. Azie Osborne died on July 22nd at the age of 76 from complications related to Parkinson's disease. After his death, the screenshot circulated widely as his last documented appearance, capturing a moment that was never intended to serve as a goodbye. George Foreman. One of the final public photos of George Foreman was taken during an anniversary celebration of the historic Rumble in the Jungle bout. The image, photographed in October 2024, showed Foreman smiling and standing comfortably among guests. The atmosphere was relaxed, and there were no visible signs of illness or decline. George Foreman died on March 21st at the age of 76 in Houston, following medical complications. The anniversary photo later resurfaced as one of his last public images, gaining significance only after his passing. Gene Hackman. Gene Hackman's final known public photos showed him with his wife outside their home, captured quietly without media presence or formal occasion. At the time, the images received little attention and went largely unnoticed. They surfaced publicly only after news of their deaths. Gene Hackman died on February 18th, at the age of 95, from severe heart disease complicated by Alzheimer's. The photographs later became notable as the last visual record of the retired actor, an unremarkable moment that gained meaning in hindsight. Sally Kirkland. Sally Kirkland's last publicly shared image was a selfie she posted to Instagram weeks before her decline. The photo was taken indoors under soft lighting, with a neutral expression and no caption referencing illness. The post remained online without alteration. Sally Kirkland died on November 11th at the age of 84 after complications from dementia following a serious fall. After her death, the selfie was recognized as her final self-recorded image, capturing an ordinary moment that later became her last. Brian Wilson. Brian Wilson was last photographed in a recording studio in April, seated near the console with headphones resting nearby. The session was private and unannounced, and the image showed him present but visibly fatigued. Nothing suggested it would be his last working photograph. Brian Wilson died in his sleep on June 11th at the age of 82 after long-term complications from COVID-19. Months later, the studio image was later identified as the final visual record of him at work. George Wendt. One of the final publicly circulated images of George Wendt showed him leaving a dialysis clinic in Los Angeles shortly before his death. The photograph was taken outdoors and appeared unplanned, capturing Wendt walking slowly with a guarded posture. At the time, the image did not attract attention and was not accompanied by any public statement regarding his health. George Wendt died on May 20th at the age of 76. Authorities later confirmed the cause of death as cardiac arrest. After his passing, the photograph was widely identified as one of his last public sightings, documenting an ordinary moment during a private medical visit that later became significant in retrospect. June Lockhart. June Lockhart's last recorded image came from a screenshot taken from her last recorded screen appearance, which aired in 2016. The footage showed Lockhart seated calmly, composed and attentive, without any indication that it would later be viewed as her final recorded moment. The clip aired without special notice and remained largely forgotten for years. June Lockhart died of natural causes at her Santa Monica home on October 23rd at the age of 100. After her death, the screenshot was recognized as her final on-screen image, marking the end of a long career that quietly faded from public view. Ruth Buzzy. One of Ruth Buzzy's final known photographs showed her smiling gently while seated indoors during hospice care. The image was taken privately and was not intended for public release. Buzzy appeared frail but alert, surrounded by familiar surroundings. Ruth Buzzy died on May the 1st at the age of 88 from complications related to Alzheimer's disease. Following her death, the photograph was shared publicly and recognized as one of her last images. The moment documented was neither staged nor ceremonial, capturing an ordinary period of care that later became her final visual record. Bob Uecker. Bob Uecker's final widely circulated photograph was taken at American Family Field in 1924, where he was seen tipping his cap during a ceremonial appearance. The image showed him standing on the field, dressed appropriately for the occasion, acknowledging the crowd briefly. There was no indication that the appearance would be among his last. Bob Uecker died on January 16th at the age of 90 from complications related to small cell lung cancer. After his death, the stadium photograph was recognized as one of his final public images, marking the end of a long career spent largely in baseball stadiums and broadcast booths. David Lynch. One of the final known images of David Lynch came from a still taken indoors, captured during a quiet moment months before his death. The image showed Lynch seated in a familiar environment, surrounded by books and artwork associated with his long creative career. There was no indication that the photograph would later be viewed as significant, and it circulated only minimally at the time. David Lynch died on January 16th at the age of 78. After confirmation of his death, the image was later recognized as one of the last visual records of the filmmaker, documenting an ordinary moment rather than a public farewell. Jim Lovell. Jim Lovell's final widely shared photograph was taken during a ceremony in Illinois in 2024, honoring his service as commander of Apollo 13. The image showed Lovell standing with assistants, dressed formally, acknowledging the audience briefly. The event was regarded as routine recognition rather than a final appearance. Jim Lovell died on August 8th at the age of 97 from natural causes. Following his death, the photograph gained new significance as one of the last public images of the astronaut, marking the end of a long and publicly documented life. Dick Cheney. One of the last known photographs of Dick Cheney showed him seated during a private gathering, surrounded by family members. The image was not publicly released when it was taken and carried no indication of finality. Dick Cheney died on November 3rd at the age of 84 from pneumonia and vascular disease complications. After his death, the photograph surfaced and was identified as one of his final images, documenting a private moment rather than a political or public event. Hulk Hogan. Hulk Hogan's final public photograph was taken outside his Florida home, captured casually by a passerby. The image showed Hogan dressed informally, walking without fanfare or announcement. At the time, the photograph was unremarkable and did not circulate widely. Hulk Hogan died on July 24th at the age of 71 after suffering an acute myocardial infarction at his home. After news of his death, the image resurfaced and was recognized as his last public sighting. Val Kilmer. Val Kilmer's final publicly seen image came from an Instagram post he shared earlier in the year. The photo showed him seated indoors, appearing subdued, with no caption referencing illness or finality. The post was received as a routine update at the time. Val Kilmer died on April 1st at the age of 65 in Los Angeles from pneumonia, complicated by respiratory failure and cancer-related conditions. After his death, the image was widely circulated as his final self-shared photograph. Michelle Trachtenberg. The last known photograph of Michelle Trachtenberg was a selfie posted from inside her New York apartment. The image appeared ordinary, showing her standing near a window in natural light. There was no caption suggesting distress or illness. Michelle Trachtenberg died on February 26th at the age of 39 from medical complications. Following the announcement of her death, the selfie was recognized as her last documented photograph, capturing a private moment later viewed in hindsight. Sam Moore. One of Sam Moore's final photographs showed him standing beside Keith Richards during an informal gathering in December 2024. The image was not staged and circulated quietly among fans. Sam Moore died on January 10th at the age of 89 following surgery at a Florida hospital. After his death, the photograph was later recognized as one of the last known images of the soul singer, documenting a moment of quiet presence rather than performance. Ace Frehley. Ace Frehley's last publicly shared image was an Instagram post showing him seated indoors with a guitar nearby. The photograph carried no reference to health or decline and remained online after his death. Ace Frehley died on October 16th at the age of 74 from injuries sustained in a fall inside a recording studio. The post was later identified as his final publicly shared image. Robert Redford. One of the last photographs of Robert Redford showed him seated among friends and family during a private gathering. The image was not released publicly at the time it was taken. Robert Redford died on September 16th at the age of 89, following complications after completing his final role on Dark Winds. After his death, the photograph surfaced and was recognized as one of his final images, documenting a private moment away from public life. Connie Francis. Connie Francis was last photographed at her home in Parkland, Florida, where she appeared with her dog in a quiet domestic setting. The image was taken on June 6th and carried no special significance at the time. Connie Francis died on July 16th at the age of 87 from pneumonia diagnosed just one day earlier. After her death, the photograph was recognized as her final public image. Sly Stone. One of the final known images of Sly Stone surfaced quietly after his death, showing him seated indoors during a private moment. The photograph was not staged and did not circulate publicly at the time it was taken. Stone appeared reserved, with no indication that the image would later become significant. Sly Stone died on June 9th at the age of 82 from complications related to chronic obstructive pulmonary disease and other underlying health conditions. After his passing, the image was shared as one of the last visual records of the musician, documenting an unremarkable moment that later gained meaning through timing alone. David Johansen. A late photograph of David Johansen was taken after he publicly revealed his cancer diagnosis. The image showed him indoors, without staging or announcement, and was shared quietly. At the time, it was viewed simply as an update rather than a final record. David Johansen, frontman of the New York Dolls, died on February 28th at the age of 75 from cancer at his home on Staten Island. After confirmation of his death, the photograph later came to be seen as one of his final appearances, marking the last documented glimpse of the musician outside a performance setting. Irv Gotti. Irv Gotti's final recorded appearance came from a video in which he spoke candidly to his children about life and mortality. The recording was made privately and was not intended for public release at the time. Gotti appeared calm and composed throughout the video. He died on February 5th at the age of 54 in New York City from a hemorrhagic stroke. Following his death, the video was shared more widely and identified as his final recorded message, documenting a personal moment rather than a professional one. Diane Keaton. Diane Keaton's final publicly shared image came from an Instagram post showing her at home with her dog. The setting was quiet and familiar, and the post carried no indication of illness or urgency. The image was received as a routine update. Diane Keaton died on October 11th at the age of 79 from bacterial pneumonia in Santa Monica. After her death, the Instagram post was identified as her final public image, marking the last time she shared a glimpse of her private life. Sam Rivers. One of the last photographs of Sam Rivers showed him performing on stage during a live show. The image captured a brief moment of movement and energy and was not treated as significant at the time. Sam Rivers died on October 18th at the age of 48 in Florida. After his death, the stage photograph was shared widely as one of the last records of him performing live. Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk was photographed moments before taking the stage at an event held at Utah Valley University. The image was taken casually and showed him preparing to speak. Charlie Kirk died on September 10th at the age of 32 after being fatally shot during the event. Following confirmation of his death, the photograph was identified as the final image taken before the incident, capturing a moment immediately preceding the tragedy. Dwayne Wiggins. One of Dwayne Wiggins' final photographs showed him standing with Sheila E. during a brief, Informal moment shortly before his death. The image was not staged and circulated quietly. Dwayne Wiggins died on March 7th at the age of 64 from bladder cancer in Oakland. After his passing, the photograph later came to be seen as one of his final public appearances, documenting an ordinary moment between musicians. Angie Stone. Angie Stone's final known appearance came from a live Instagram video recorded on February 17th. The video was informal and unannounced, filmed in a casual setting without staging or production. Stone appeared composed, speaking naturally, with no indication that the recording would later be viewed as significant. Angie Stone died on March the 1st at the age of 63 after a fatal car accident near Montgomery, Alabama. Following her death, the video was widely circulated and identified as her final recorded appearance, documenting an ordinary moment that only later became meaningful through timing. Pope Francis. The final image of Pope Francis was taken one day before his death during a brief public appearance. The photograph showed him seated, appearing frail but attentive, surrounded by aides. The image was captured without special notice and circulated normally at the time. Pope Francis died on April 21st at the age of 88 after suffering a cerebral stroke that led to coma and irreversible cardiac arrest. After confirmation of his death, the photograph was shared worldwide and recognized as his final public image. Jackie McLean. A late image of Jackie McLean surfaced days after his passing, showing him indoors during a quiet moment. The photograph was not staged and had not been widely shared when it was taken. Jackie McLean died on October 26th at the age of 83 from congestive heart failure in New York. After his death, the image was identified as one of his final photographs, documenting a private moment that gained significance only after the fact. Wink Martindale. One of Wink Martindale's final photographs showed him receiving recognition on Beale Street's Walk of Fame. The image was taken in 2024 during a brief public moment and was not initially regarded as significant. Wink Martindale died on April 15th at the age of 91 from lymphoma at a hospital in Rancho Mirage. Following his death, the photograph was recognized as one of his last public images. Jane Goodall. Jane Goodall's final known photograph was taken during a speaking tour on September 24th. The image showed her standing calmly before an audience, engaged in routine work she had continued for decades. Jane Goodall died peacefully in her sleep at the age of 91. After her death, the photograph was shared widely and identified as her final public appearance, marking the end of a lifetime of scientific and public engagement. Phil Robertson. The Robertson family released a final photograph of Phil Robertson, taken privately before his death. The image showed him seated comfortably, surrounded by familiar surroundings. Phil Robertson died on May 25th at the age of 79 after ongoing health issues. Following the announcement of his death, the photograph was shared publicly and recognized as his last recorded image. Bobby Sherman. Bobby Sherman's final known photograph showed him with his wife, taken months before his death. The image was quiet and domestic, without any public context. Sherman died on June 24th at the age of 81 in Los Angeles, after being diagnosed with stage 4 kidney cancer. After his passing, the photograph was identified as his final family image, documenting a private moment later viewed in hindsight. Michael Madsen. Michael Madsen's final public appearance was photographed at the Chiller Theater Expo on April 27th. The image showed him attending the event without ceremony or announcement. Michael Madsen died from cardiac arrest at the age of 67. After his death, the convention photograph was circulated widely and recognized as his final public appearance. Todd Snider. Todd Snider's final Instagram post was shared shortly before his tour was set to begin. The image was casual and unremarkable, with no indication of illness. Todd Snider died on November 14th at the age of 59 from pneumonia in Nashville. After his death, the post was identified as his final public update. Jimmy Cliff. One of the last known photographs of Jimmy Cliff showed him with Barbara Blake Hannah during a quiet, informal moment. The image was not staged and carried no public context when it was taken. Cliff appeared calm and reserved, with no indication that the photograph would later become significant. Jimmy Cliff died on November 24th at the age of 81 from pneumonia following a seizure. After his death, the image was identified as one of his final known photographs, documenting an ordinary personal moment that later gained importance through timing. Glen Burke. Glen Burke's final, widely circulated images came from his last live performance with Blondie. The photographs showed him on stage engaged in performance without any indication that the appearance would be his last. Glen Burke died on April 6th at the age of 70 following a battle with cancer. After his death, the performance images were shared widely as the final public record of him doing what he was best known for. Julian McMahon. Julian McMahon's final public photograph was taken months before his death during an understated appearance. The image did not draw attention at the time and carried no public context. McMahon died on July 2nd at the age of 56 from lung metastasis caused by cancer. After his death, the photograph was recognized as one of his last known public images. Catherine, Duchess of Kent. The Duchess of Kent's final public appearance took place in October 2024 during a brief ceremonial event. The moment was understated and did not attract special notice. She died on September 4th at the age of 92 at Kensington Palace. After her death, the appearance was identified as her final public sighting. These images were not taken as farewells. They were ordinary moments, captured without awareness. Time changed their meaning. What remains are quiet records of lives that continued until they didn't.